Hello there, and welcome to the Outside Film Podcast, where we talk film, TV, games, and all that jazz like there is no tomorrow. This week, we are talking about The Batman. My name is Tom, and as always, I'm joined by my co-host, John.
Hey, I'm here.
It's time. It's finally time, and I can say definitively this film is cinema.
It is pure cinema. It's not a comic book film. It doesn't feel like it. It's something that you don't see in Adam West, old Batman TV shows.
That's true. It's definitely the
Yeah,
furthest thing from that.
this is just like a Batman film that we've been waiting to see. We kind of see that in Batman v Superman, but it wasn't really clear enough. But this one, it didn't need introduction because we know Batman, but this is like a different path to it. It's more darker, it's more gritty, it's more realistic. This is going to be this term realistic. We're going to see this a lot of times in this film because
yeah, it goes without saying. Full spoilers ahead. So if you haven't seen this, get down to the cinema and see it, because this really is everything that I wanted it to be and more. Let's just kind of go straight into it. From the very opening, I was just so hooked. The second kind of sequence of the film with Batman throughout Gotham was amazing, with the voiceover talking about how when that light hits the sky, it's a warning. And all the people, like all the criminals, they look to the shadows and they think someone's there and they run away in fear until you finally get the criminals who actually do get to see Batman. And as you see in the trailer, he beats up those clowns. And what an opening.
That is just something that we didn't really see in the Batman films, like, pure fear from criminals. So that we kind of see that in the Dark Knight, but not expanded enough like in the second one. But this, it just showed like the true essence of Batman, like, the fear, like what if he comes out of the shadows? And it was like definitely out of the opening in Court of Owls or in Batman Year One, the voiceover and showing the terrifying and horrifying shots of Gotham, like how depressing it is and how the criminals taking over Gotham. But
Gotham feels so alive in this film. In the past, I don't think since Batman and Robin has Gotham felt so... I mean, that's not true. Maybe not since Batman Begins has Gotham felt so gritty and like its own character, especially in The Dark Knight Rises and The Dark Knight and Batman v Superman. I love all those films, but it's just like Chicago or New York. It's not Gotham, but this really felt like Gotham, the city that just being in it makes you feel like you're trapped, makes you feel like crime is everywhere. And it's a place that, as Bruce says, maybe is beyond saving. And I really felt that in this film.
Yeah, they really did amazing shots of Gotham. Like, it's a brand new place, different architecture. Like, it's Gothic. Heck, Gotham and Gothic. Yeah.
Oh!
And the really cool thing is, I remember they shot the Batman in Liverpool with the architecture and the statues as well outside that funeral scene, if you remember.
Yes, of course.
Yeah. It's like the true embodiment of Gotham that we've been finally waiting to see. Yeah.
It really did feel like what you get in the comics. Obviously, we recently did our video on the best Batman stories. And one of the things we talked about, especially in the New 52 run, is Gotham being this character and being almost the most important character in any Batman story. And I feel like this really nailed it. There were so many points where I was like, yes, it makes sense that this city would create such monsters, people like the Riddler, who have been destroyed by everything within it and false promises. And the cinematography in this film and the framing of everything was amazing.
I just can't describe it. You're seeing like some incredible shots, like when Batman and Catwoman are talking near the bat signal, the sunrise in the distance, and then it's like their definition of the relationship, like the night and day. I'm going to talk about this Bruce Wayne and Batman. It's great later on, but it's just like in the past films, we kind of see Batman's love relationship all over the place. If you don't remember it, but with Catwoman, like in the Arkham, I'm going to keep referring back to the Arkham games. Like, it's the suit and everything that did really well with the shots. And I don't know. I'm just too happy to talk about it. It's just, you can describe it much better than me with the shots. Go ahead.
I feel like I know what you mean with Catwoman, but in every time that Bruce Wayne is given a love interest in the Batman films, maybe the only time it's not like this is in Batman Forever and Batman and Robin, but every time it's like, this is the person who this is the love of Bruce's life. You've got your Vicky Vales, Rachel, even like the other two Catwomans in Batman Returns and The Dark Knight Rises. But this, it felt like a fascination that Bruce feels kind of drawn to Selina and not confused, but she poses questions to him that he has never considered, or maybe has considered,
Yeah.
and is
Yeah.
genuinely intrigued by. She says to him, it's clear that you grew up rich because you don't see the suffering of all these people. And that's very evident. It's similar to what kind of issues they bring up in The Dark Knight Rises, but it feels a lot more grounded. The whole time Catwoman is fighting for this woman, Annika, who has been killed and who nobody knows and nobody will remember because she is just poor and unimportant. And Catwoman is one of the factors in which takes Batman through this character arc in the film, where he learns it's not just about being vengeance. It's not just about striking fear into the hearts of criminals, but it's about providing hope to the people of Gotham. I loved that character arc. I thought it was brilliant.
Yeah, I've got more notes for that scene where, you know, Batman and Catwoman were talking in that scene near the Bat Signal with that huge, stunning cinematography. I really want to know how they did that. It's just so amazing. I really like the dynamics between Batman and Catwoman throughout this. They're completely different characters, but they attract each other. As you say, not being too confused. It's just like a fascination between a bat and a cat. Yeah, it's just written so well with the different nature between them. Let's talk about Riddler.
Yeah, okay. It wasn't a conventional Riddler. It wasn't what you see in Batman Forever or in Gotham or in anything else. They gave him this kind of modern retelling where he obviously his design is very much inspired by the Zodiac Killer, and they gave him a social media following and this presence, and I think it really worked. He was this looming figure who obviously is presenting clues and riddles that were constantly keeping Batman on his toes in all the deaths that are happening in all the different ways. And I thought that was really good to then see him unmasked at the end, when he is just somebody who craves attention and he craves a feeling that he can bring some sort of meaning and that he can overthrow the ruling classes. And I loved that scene in the prison where Batman just says, you're a psychopath and you're just an attention seeker and you're not really going to make any impact and everyone will forget you. And Riddler is just screaming, no, you're wrong. I'm going to change everything. And probably my least favorite scene in the film is the scene with Joker at the end. But what I did love about that is how Riddler he saw the news and he realized that nobody cares about him anymore. Everyone's looking to Batman, and ultimately everything that he does is pointless because hope always shines through.
Yeah, and Riddler was more of a really scary villain in the past Arkham or in films in general. Like, he's a very goofy character.
Yeah.
But no, this one was just like a really good, horrifying character. It was like Saw, Seven, and like all of those all together. And I'm glad they did that. You know, he's a bit more realistic. He's a attention seeker. And like, if you watch that at the end when he's like, hey guys, thank you for following me. And
Don't forget to leave a like.
Yeah, that was really funny. And throughout the film, it just works really well, piecing all the information together. And it's just a brand new story for Riddler. It's just like a new thing that we haven't seen. He's a lot more darker. And at the beginning of the film, like he appeared out of nowhere in the mayor's home.
That was really cool. There are a lot of interesting parallels to Riddler and Batman, such as the opening shot is we see Riddler's binoculars and that perspective. And later on, we mirror that perspective when Bruce is looking through his binoculars into Selina's apartment. And the way that the Riddler emerges from the shadows in that first scene is very similar to how Batman emerges from the shadows. And it's interesting that they build Riddler up as this attention-seeking person who feels like he can change everything and it's in his hands to do so. And he does it in all the wrong ways. It's very interesting how that is exactly what Bruce is doing. As Batman, he believes as well that what he is doing is the only way to fix this and that he is taking this responsibility in his own hands. And those are some things that Alfred kind of points out in his scenes, that he'll have nothing left if he continues down this path. but very similar to the Riddler, Bruce doesn't really care what happens to him. But unlike the Riddler, he changes, and he realizes, as I say at the end, that hope is the thing that can save everyone.
Yeah, he was a really good character in this one. I thought he wasn't like, mustache twirly type of character. He was like a very straightforward and psychopathic character. So yeah.
I would like to see, because we're gonna get a sequel. Like,
Yeah.
it's all but confirmed. I think they might even be working on one. I would like to see him go more comic book Riddler. I would genuinely like to see him in the green suit with the hat and the cane, and him take that creepy social media side and turn it into a more flamboyant. Maybe his relationship with the Joker might bring that out in him. And if we see him again, I'd like to see that explored.
Yeah.
We've seen something really different, but I think Paul Dano, amazing performance by him. He could do some really cool stuff with that classic Riddler. It's like in Gotham. I think the Riddler in Gotham is so cool, and the way that he is maniacal and he's really flamboyant in everything. And I think that would be cool to explore in this universe too.
Yeah, that would apply easily in that universe as well. From from that Gotham TV show to that, and that just works. Like him being crazy and obsessing with Batman, with the idea of hope. Yeah, that would actually work if the sequel in the works. But if Matt Reeves is doing a sequel, we all know that he's a god.
He is. He can't lose at this point. He has my complete and utter faith.
In Matt Reeves, we trust.
In Matt Reeves, we trust, indeed. Let's talk about Falcone.
Oh, Falcone. He was interesting, actually. And it was a great twist with Selena saying, "Oh, he's my father." Like, I didn't really expect that, because was that in the? I don't think that was in the comics somewhere. But
I don't think so.
No, but that was a good one. Like to apply some relationship within Catwoman and Falcone, because I think that's not a relationship that we explore. With the whole mafia crime lord Falcone. There he is. Like he's left out a lot. I mean, in Dark Knight trilogy, he's
Falcone, because Christopher Nolan doesn't know how to pronounce things, apparently.
Oh, Falcone. Oh, yeah. Oh, really? Oh, yeah.
It's weird. I thought he was cool. I thought as you say, the idea of this whole everyone is dirty, everyone is in the pocket of this one guy. It fits into what the Riddler is arguing about, how everyone is in on this and everyone is lying. And I think that works really well. And the thing about Falcone is you get some really interesting play with blame and the truth. There are moments where Falcone will say things to Bruce that makes him question, his parents. And there's that whole, like, did Falcone have the Waynes killed, or was it maybe Maroni, or just some random person? Like, we don't know. And I thought that was really interesting to explore. It's something that you get in the Batman Telltale game, this exploring a bit deeper. Is it just like a random hit from some thug who wanted some money, or was it like more planned? And I think that was an interesting thing to explore through Falcone. And his relationship with Selena, I think, was a really, really good way for them to explore murder. Batman has to persuade her not to kill Falcone. And I think that was some really strong character work of them. Batman's no kill rule is very much at the center of his philosophies, and that's no different here. And I think that was a really good way to explore that, with her having really good reason to kill Falcone and literal proof that he killed her friend. And yet Batman has to, it's like how he's inspiring hope. He inspires people to be better, and he inspires her not to kill him.
Yeah, and that was a really good way of like connecting everybody in. And Falcone, he was a massive part of this. There was one bit that I really liked, the dialogue between Bruce and Falcone was like, he said, "Oh, your father, he saved me on our operating table." And then Bruce said, "Well, you used the Hippocratic Oath." Do you know what the Hippocratic Oath is?
I don't think I do.
So the Hippocratic Oath is where the doctors will save lives without question.
So no matter how good the person is, even if it's like a murderer, they will save them, right?
Let me check. Here we go. To prevent self-interested doctors from harming individual patients in ancient times. Yeah, so you have to say they will not tamper anything with the patient. So
yeah, no, that is quite cool. There's definitely this kind of mob mentality. The whole thing is so noir, where there are only a handful of straight cops in GCPD. The DA is dirty. The mayor is dirty. And it all goes back to Falcone, this mob boss who isn't seen. And whenever he is like, you know, it's like a really big deal. And I think that was really cool to explore. And it really worked well with all the detective elements. It did feel like a 50s noir film with the voiceover and all the different clues and just the way that some of the characters spoke to each other, like Jim always calling Batman Chief. It did feel like that kind of film.
Yeah, it did. And there was some great character dynamics between Jim and Batman, you know, like the exchanging like Chief and like,
Yes.
you know, who is the real person here. And Jim was really good. I'm just thinking about like the past Jim Gordons. They're all great, if I can remember. Like they're all great in films and comics. But Jeffrey Wright did really well as
He
Jim
did.
Gordon in this one. Yeah, with the whole persona of like trying to save Gotham.
Yeah, there was that
Yeah.
excellent scene in the GCPD where all of the cops are pushing for Batman's arrest and to unmask him. And Jim's like, leave me alone with this guy. And he's just like, okay, hit me in the face and get out of here. And I loved that scene so much where Bruce, you know, he absolutely decks Gordon and then just literally runs through all the cops and they're all chasing him and he goes up the stairwell like with his grapple hook and then like he puts on his flight suit and he just jumps off the building. It was so cool. It's things that we've seen before. Like we've seen the cops chasing Batman so many times, but as always, Matt Reeves put a different spin on it. And I really appreciated that. This didn't feel like any other Batman film that we've ever seen. And it was just cool, man.
Yeah, it was so cool. I want to talk about the realistic elements, like what you said about, you know, jumping out with the wingsuit. That is the most realistic thing we've seen anything in Batman universe. Like he's using the wingsuit, not using the cape. That was like the most like perfect sense, like to have that there. And there was some great bits with the fighting. That was really good. Like Batman took a few shots. Like at the beginning, like he was fighting with the criminals. That whole fight scene was like very short, but it's just like showing how terrifying Batman is in combat. But he like took a shot. There was other ones as well, like in the club when he's like going through fighting everyone like John Wick style, but
yes,
without the gun.
And of course, Robert Bat wields a baseball bat. It was a beautiful moment.
Oh yeah, he did. Yeah.
Yeah, it was, and obviously Penguin's like, "Whoa, take it easy, sweetheart." It's moments that obviously we saw in the trailer, but they're just as cool here. And Penguin was also really cool. He wasn't at all like he wasn't a huge part of the film, but he was very much like that kind of like secondary mob guy who's always like taking cheap shots at people. And obviously Colin Farrell's great, and the makeup is insane. And that Batmobile chase, it's so cool. It's a long chase, but damn, it's some cool Batmobile action.
Yeah, let's talk about Penguin for a bit. Penguin was, as you said, he wasn't a big part of the film, but also just like he was very like kind of integral to the story, you know, with everything. And the cool bit, like trying to find out what it was like the Spanish wording, like lo rata.
Yeah, it was a rat with wings, and so they think, okay, maybe it's a bat, maybe it's a penguin, and obviously they eventually find out it's a falcon, like Falcone.
Yeah, Colin Firth. No, Colin Firth.
Oh my God, Farrell. Yes, cast Colin Firth as the Penguin, please. Somebody do it.
Oh my God, guys, I meant Colin Farrell. It's so bizarre, like how they did the makeup so well. Like,
if they don't get nominated for best makeup at the Oscars, I mean, like that is some of the best I've ever seen.
Have they done?
No, it'll be next year.
Oh man, we have to wait until next year. Man.
But no, we're getting two of the spin-offs that we're getting. We're getting a Penguin TV show and GCPD TV show. I think that Penguin is a really good character to explore a bit more. I think there's a lot of potential there. And yeah, I think that if Gotham taught me anything, is that Penguin can be one of the most interesting characters in the Batman universe. And that show is a good idea. It could be really cool.
Yeah, get him to explore more. It's like Peacemaker in Suicide Squad, and they got a really good TV show. I heard it's really good. I want to watch it.
Oh, it is good. I can tell you that.
Yeah. I'm glad they're going to explore Penguin. So yeah, good. Yay. It's going to be in like HBO Max, right?
Yeah, probably.
Man, I have to wait for many years.
Yeah, it's like us in the unless you got a VPN, you basically
Oh.
screwed.
But I have to pay money for VPN.
I think that out of all the characters, the one character who I definitely would have liked to see more of was Alfred. Alfred gets
Oh,
about
yeah.
3 scenes with Bruce, and I really liked those scenes, but there just
Yeah.
wasn't enough. And this is a long
Yeah.
film, but when Alfred is put in that accident, I didn't really feel it. Their relationship wasn't at the point where I really felt the hurt. Obviously, I know Batman and Alfred's relationship, and I know that it's important and that it's important to Bruce that he survives. But this Bruce and Alfred, I didn't see enough of them. And I would have liked to see so much more. And the scene where they're in the hospital and Alfred saying, "You were such a scared kid and you needed a father, and I did the best that I could with you." That was a great scene. But
Yeah.
again, there just wasn't enough of that.
Yeah, that was a bit sad. Like you didn't see enough with Alfred. But if you think about like the whole film in general, like how are you going to put Alfred in these situations? It's going to be a bit hard. Hopefully, well, if they're going to do a sequel, like they can include Alfred a bit more, helping him. But another detail was that Batman in this film, he was trying to work alone and not trying to get Alfred in the way as well. I think that worked because throughout you don't hear as Alfred, but then it's a punch in the gut when you realize that explosion happened an hour ago. You forgot about Alfred, and then but it's just something that helps to remember who Bruce Wayne really is. And then that final bit in the film, like the whole, I don't know how long it was, but like the third act just pays it off really well.
Yeah, I definitely think there's so much more Batman than Bruce Wayne in this film. And normally, I wouldn't like that. For example, in Batman Returns, Bruce Wayne is barely in it, and I don't like that. But in this film, I think that that is entirely the point. The point is
that is justified.
Yes. The point is that Batman is consuming Bruce and he's going on this crusade and he isn't realizing the ways in which Bruce Wayne can be of value. It's very similar to what we see in Batman v Superman, where Bruce feels like the bat is consuming him, and he learns throughout the film that Bruce Wayne can actually be really valuable. And I really like that. In this film, I think it really works that Bruce is a loner and is uncomfortable with any sort of limelight. Whereas Batman, even Riddler says it, "I don't want to know your true face," because Batman is your true face. You know, the mask that he wears is Bruce Wayne, and Batman is him expressing it. And in this film, a lot of the themes are about him coming to terms with a bit more of his humanity and not just being the symbol of fear, but also being able to provide the city with that sense of hope.
Yeah, I was hearing a lot of criticism about like, oh, there's more Batman and Bruce Wayne. I get that, but this is really, justified, like being more personified with Batman, because if you remember in the Dark Knight trilogy, Bruce Wayne uses Bruce Wayne as is different persona. Batman is his real identity. So in this film, you do see the real Bruce Wayne in this, and then the Bruce Wayne you see in public is just completely different. Like in the funeral scene, he's a very introverted, alone. Well, he is alone a lot in this film.
He's just alone in his cave listening to Nirvana, just being really broody.
that is really they captured that. It's completely changed when you meet Selina. I think the idea of hope. And the great thing about this film is really realistic, because a lot of fans in the past will complaining about like Batman killing people. I mean, you can see that in the Arkham games. Like he's brutal, like what he does with the criminals, and not stabbing them but bonking them, a lot of things as well. But this, it's just really well done, and there's not a lot of fight scenes, which is great, because in a lot of Batman comics, or I don't know, not in the comics but films, it's like there's a lot of fight scenes and it can get a bit confusing. But they're so good that they're just really good, and you don't get lost, and you just
the scene at the end when they're all in the flooding center, and it was so good. The ceiling like begins to explode, and for a second you think, oh, is there another Riddler bomb? And then Batman drops down from the flames down and just starts beating up all these guys that are dressed as Riddler. It was an amazing moment, but it was so indicative of what the themes of the film are, because it then shows Batman overwhelmed, and Selina and Gordon are people that come to to his rescue. And when he injects himself with adrenaline, I think it was adrenaline, and he kind of
I think
like
it is adrenaline, or
it was either adrenaline, or this is kind of out of left field, but it could be Lazarus, which is the healing
oh,
water from the comics, because it was green and it seemed to heal his wound. So it could be either, but either way, he injects himself with it and he completely lets go and just starts beating this guy so much. And Selena is so scared of him at this point because of how far he's going from this random guy. And then
yeah.
when Gordon asks, "Who are you?" the guy says, "I'm vengeance." And in that moment, Bruce sees himself and he sees what he's become and what he may become. And he
Uh,
pulls back. And it was such a good scene. Great
this,
action and
uh,
fitting in with the themes of the film. Like, that is top tier comic book content.
or film content that you want to
Yeah.
see, like if you're Batman. Dude, yeah, I forgot. Well, I mean, he's completely losing it, and I don't think we've seen like a really well. I mean, you see that in the Court of Owls, like at the end of the volume, where Batman just doesn't give up, and he said he had like enough. Like at the end, if you remember, like in the
Yes.
maze. Oh, I thought they were going to add in the maze in the film.
There's a lot of theories that the Court of Owls were going to be in it. And I would love to see the Court of Owls in a film one day, but I'm glad they didn't. It would have been
Yeah,
so much more to do if they had the Court of Owls in it.
that would be really hard to do actually. Like set up Bruce Wayne, address who the Court of Owls, and then connect with a lot of people. Yeah, it wouldn't work, but it would work in a future film. So yeah, and he was like in pure anger, just like beating the crap out of this criminal, just like beating out. And that's like the first time that we see a character who's like an ally who's scared of Batman. Imagine like an unhinged Batman. Well, we kind of see that.
It was really cool. And then what I loved about how that sequence progresses is as soon as Bruce sees the similarities between him and all these Riddler people, the way that Riddler has inspired all of the worst people in Gotham to kind of rise up and deal this damage, he looks down and he sees people in danger and he realizes that this is what it's for. It's not about beating criminals, it's about saving the city. And he jumps down into the water, and I loved it so much as he walked towards and he held his hand out to help, and he's got the flare in his hand, and nobody comes with him because they're scared of him. And the boy, the orphan who he's seen throughout the whole film and connected with as Bruce and Batman, the orphan is the person to reach out because they understand each other, even if the kid doesn't know that that is Bruce Wayne. And Bruce leads the people to safety. You said it yourself, you cried in the cinema. It was
I cried.
a
I
yeah, it
cried
was
so hard at that. The bit when he just cuts off the electricity to sacrifice himself, but he saved himself, and with like the bat symbol, that was a cool bit. Like you don't see
yeah.
any batarangs, but he used the bat symbol to do that, and the flash with the red and blue, like as he dropped down, and it just went to darkness, and then the darkness just kind of represent Batman. You know, he's leading people to hope. Oh, dude, I'm getting chills now. It's so good. Like,
It was amazing.
oh, and
And
like the red flare just guiding out,
yeah,
like that is the Batman we didn't even see like in any films. Like he doesn't really lead out to hope or anything. Like I give me one moment that he leads out to hope. I can't remember anything. That is the hope that we wanted to see from Batman. And yeah, I'll tell you again, I cried so hard. Like I was trying not to cry, like with a mask. I had my mask on, and then I was just like, it's like 1917, you know, like he's running
yeah.
across.
There's just the power of cinema is just so strong in those moments. And I loved the final narration. Bruce accepts the hope
And
when
vengeance.
he has this person in his arms, and he places them on the stretcher, and they get carried away and they're holding hands and he lifts them up, and it was such a good ending. And it's kind of a
I'm getting choked up
shame.
now. I'm getting choked up. Nope, nope.
It's kind of a shame because, kind of like Justice League, it has 2 extra scenes after that which don't work half as much. The scene with Riddler and Joker was good, but it was very much like sequel setup, and it didn't feel entirely, it felt a bit out of place. And the scene where Selena and Bruce say goodbye, that was great. I loved
That was
it.
great.
Again, you know, like there's that temptation to leave and they're drawn to each other. And at the end of the day, their relationship is very central to the film. But that scene where Bruce helps that person and they fly away in the helicopter was such a good ending. And I wish it had ended there because, you know, to begin and end with his narration would have been so cool. But yeah, I mean, to give my closing thoughts, this film had some of the best Batman moments ever. The entire opening with Batman was just top tier comic book content in general.
It is, yeah.
The music was
And
amazing, the action, the shots.
Michael Giacchino, you
So
are
good.
God at this.
He's
did the most amazing bits.
amazing. What a guy. What a man.
Especially he did that.
Brilliant.
The guidance scene, you know, like him just like saving those. That was such a good piece of music. And the production level is insane. Like with the car chase.
There was so much practical elements. It didn't feel like it was all shot on a sound stage. Yeah, it was so good. And I'm so proud of everyone involved. Well done. Gold star. What are you going to give it out of 10?
10 out of 10. Come on. 10
Brilliant.
out of 10.
I'm going to go 9 out of 10.
What?
Cinema. I'm not going to lie. It wasn't perfect, but it was nearly perfect. I thought there wasn't enough Bruce and Alfred, and the Joker scene kind of rubbed me the wrong way. But yeah, cool. So cool. Thank you everyone for listening.
Wait, I'm putting my closing thoughts. It's a great film. It's one of the best films I've seen. And I'm glad I watched it in the cinema with the super screen. And oh my God, the super screen, like it was loud and and the music as well. And it was so good. It was so good. I'm glad I saw it. It's great.
Yeah, well, thank you everyone for listening. If you enjoyed, please give it a thumbs up and subscribe if you want to see more. We recently did an episode on the best Batman stories, and we've got quite a bit of Batman content if you guys are interested. More DC stuff, more superhero stuff in general. You can give us an email and tell us your thoughts on the Batman, or give us any questions and we will answer them on the pod if you email us at ousetimefilmpod@gmail.com, or you can follow us on Twitter or Instagram at ousetimefilmpod. Next week we are going to be doing Fantastic Beasts and Where to Find Them, preparing for Secrets of Dumbledore, so get ready for that.
Thank you for listening. We thoroughly enjoyed talking about the Batman, and finally we saw a masterpiece on the big screen. Finally, we saw something that was amazing. And Matt Reeves, you did really well, by the way, if you're listening to this.
Matt Reeves has finally truly become Bat Reeves.
Bat Reeves, yeah, baby. I'm really looking forward to see what he's going to do in the future, and I have faith. This is the guy who did War for the Planet of the Apes, Dawn of the Planet of the Apes, and Cloverfield. That was fun, Cloverfield.
I haven't seen Cloverfield, but yeah, I've heard good things.
It was actually good. It was like a really good found footage film. So
great.
Yeah, great. Make sure that you get vaccinated. I got my booster. So
hey, well done.
Yay. And make sure you wear your mask, because some people in the cinema won't wear a mask. I'm like, come on, you don't want to shut it down like before. Yeah. But thank you for listening. Yeah,
and stay safe in general, because the world is horrible.
Yes. And if you want something that is really hopeful, Batman, just watch the Batman.
Do it.
Yeah, do it. And be safe. I know it's crazy what's happening in Ukraine and between Russia and yeah, for those who are living in there, just please stay safe and make sure you get out of harm's way. It's a bit mad, but
definitely.
Yeah. And we again enjoyed talking about the Batman.
Yeah. Take us out then.
Yes. Oh, I'll take us out. Oh, I thought I misheard. I thought you said. I was like, take what you give in.
Give nothing back.
Goodbye.
Goodbye.